Hi, I'm James Ball, founder and director of the Interview Academy, and today I'm going to talk to you about behavioural or competency interview questions. I'm going to go through exactly what they are, how you should go about answering them, and I'll also go through a couple of examples with you so that it all makes a lot of sense. This video will help you to prepare and practice answers that are specific to you and will put you in a position where you're never thrown by this kind of question again. So grab some paper and a pen and let's get going. So what is a behavioural question? You may have heard them called competency and situational questions before, but essentially they are all the same thing. They are used to assess you in a variety of skills and characteristics based on your history and previous actions. The major difference from other interview questions is that you're required to answer in a lot of detail and you have to give real-life examples to back up everything you say. They allow the interviewer to focus on key characteristics with laser-like precision, and as I'll show you with the use of follow-up questions, they're a tool that doesn't let you off the hook until you've given a full and detailed answer. You'll definitely recognise them. They usually start with something like, describe a situation when, tell me about a time when, or give me an example of when. And you'll be scored on your answers usually by some kind of hidden criteria. So you might get asked, describe a time when you had to work as part of a team, or give me an example of when you've had to take the lead in a project. Remember them now? The most important thing you need to remember when answering them is not to leave out any information when you answer. Give as full an answer as you possibly can. Interviewers love asking these types of questions because they give them the best possible opportunity of getting the most detail out of a candidate. Plus, they demonstrate exactly how you acted in certain situations in the past, which means that the interviewer doesn't have to guess what your character is like based on vague answers to other interview questions. And if you're lying, it's going to be obvious because you're probably not going to give the detail that you would do if you're telling the truth. And after a bit of pressure, you're almost certainly going to mess up. So basically, you can expect to be grilled if an interviewer doesn't think you're expanding enough on your answers. Behavioural questions are really tricky and they tend to trip unprepared candidates up. That's why I've created this video. I'm hoping it'll help you to get it right. So let's take a look at the best way to answer competency questions. I'm going to go ahead and assume that most of you will at least have heard of the STAR method. But just in case any of you haven't, it's basically a mnemonic that you can use to help you to remember how to structure your answers to behavioural questions. It helps you to give the most detailed and impressive answer you can. And if you use it right, your interviewer won't need to ask any probing follow-up questions. Here's how it works. S stands for situation, T stands for task, A is for action, and R, the most important bit, stands for result. Now go and write that down if you're not sure on it. S for situation, T for task, A for action, and R for result. When you're asked any competency question, you need to answer with a story. And that story should be something impressive from your past which shows how great you are in terms of whatever skill they're trying to assess. Now it should be pretty clear what skill they're looking to assess from the question that's been asked. So don't stress about that too much for now, but start by setting the scene for your interviewer. Tell them what the situation was, and that's your S, by the way. Then to make it clear, state what task you had to complete as a result of that situation, and there's your T. Followed by your action, which is your A, that you took to complete the task. And finally explain what the result, or the R, was of your action. Make sure that the story is a positive one. You never want to tell a negative story about yourself. So there you go. That's basically how the STAR method works. S-T-A-R, situation, task, action, and result. And that's the easiest and best way to answer any behavioural interview question. And remember, if you don't give enough detail in your answer, then your interviewer will almost certainly probe you with more questions such as, what was a specific challenge you faced? How did you resolve the situation? And how did you come to that decision? So now you know what it is and how it works, let's go through a couple of examples. Imagine an interviewer asks you, when was the last time you had to think on your feet? With this question, you want to talk about something work or education related that has happened to you in the past. Pick something which shows how quickly you think on your feet under pressure, which is obviously the skill they're looking to assess. So you could say, a colleague and I were supposed to be doing a sales presentation for a really important client, but my colleague called in sick that morning. That's your situation. This will immediately tell the interviewer a couple of things. Number one, you can do presentations. And number two, the company trusts you to deal with important clients. That's great stuff. Next, you need to clarify what task you are facing as a result of your sick co-worker. The task bit can be a bit difficult sometimes because it often tends to roll into your description of the situation. And if that happens, it's fine. Just try to keep your answer natural. But for the sake of this example, your task would be to resolve the situation in a way that wouldn't make the entire company look bad. Bear in mind that we had 2 hours left until the presentation was due. So with this example, you are essentially positioning yourself as the hero of the story. Your task was to save the day. Positioning yourself as the hero of the story is definitely the best way to go with competency questions. Next, you need to tell the interviewer what you did. So maybe say, I called another colleague who I knew was an expert in his field, and she agreed to back me up, especially for any technical questions that I might get asked at the end. Then I spent the hour learning and rehearsing the rest of the presentation as best as I could. Now that shows that you're willing to pitch in when things go wrong, but also you can delegate and take control of difficult situations. And this is all very positive so far. There's no need to badmouth the sick colleague or anything like that. Let the interviewer make up their own mind. So now it's crunch time. You have to tell your interviewer what happened as a result of your actions. Remember, this should always be a positive thing. There's no point telling a story that ends on a sour note. So in this example, you could say, in the end, the presentation was certainly not perfect, but we were complimented on how natural it seemed and that we were clearly very passionate about the subject. We got the sale in the end, so it can't have been that bad. So this answer says that you think on your feet, plus you're clearly a great salesperson and passionate about what you do. Always remember, be positive and remain positive at all times. However, you're not yet done because at this point, your interviewer may ask you, if you could do it all again, would you do anything differently? And so many people fall at this last hurdle with this question. It's a real favourite because it shows whether you have self-awareness and all the willingness to learn and grow from your mistakes. So if you get asked it, you could say, I'll make sure that we always have a stand-in who knows the presentation inside out, just in case any unforeseen circumstances put the main speaker out of action. And with those answers, you've proven your ability to think on your feet, how quickly you act under pressure, and that you learn from your mistakes, as well as a number of mini skills on the way, all at the same time as improving the business while you do it. I've given you this example to show you just how easy it is to come up with your own interview answers once you understand the STAR method and how to implement it. And you can pretty much amend any story you have to fit this method. But before I go, I'll just go through one more example to help you get your head around it. Imagine the interviewer asks you, tell me about a project you successfully completed as part of a team. This is a really common competency question because employers like to know if you can work well with others. I would say, at company name, we were asked to host an event for our client, and that's my situation. It was my job to run the entire event and get as many people signed up as possible. This meant working with the wider team, the venue managers, and external suppliers such as caterers and entertainers, and that's my task. Working with the venue staff, I managed to secure a famous comedian for the event. Then using some of my connections in the industry, I managed to pull in some favours with discounted food, a DJ, and alcohol, and finally working with the marketing team, we came up with an email launch campaign which filled the event within 2 days, and that's my action. The event was a huge success. My client raised over £10,000 for charity and pulled in a handful of new clients for himself, and we'll be running it again next year, and that's the result. And what would I do differently? I utilise more of the venues team to take care of the nitty-gritty stuff such as decorations and reception staff, etc., as it will allow me to dedicate more time to the core tasks. Again, this answer shows a variety of different skills and competencies, not just teamwork. I'm not going to lie, the STAR method might take some practice and it will definitely take some preparation on your part, but after a while it almost becomes instinctive. So to round up, use the STAR method, situation, task, action, result, to answer competency questions. Make sure you give a lot of detail and always be positive. But practice makes perfect, so it's a good idea to have a go with your friends or family, or even on a video so you can crack it properly. And that's because you still want to come across as naturally as you can. You don't want to sound robotic or like you're reading from a script. You want this stuff to be second nature. If you'd like some more examples of behavioural questions and sample answers too, then make sure you download our free guide on behavioural questions by clicking the link below. And for more information on behavioural questions and other videos on how to answer a range of other interview questions, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button on this page. Good luck with the interview.